Welcome to Tech in the Car. I've got the Hyundai IONIQ 5, and what happens when you have your electric car, maybe you've got a Tesla now, and you run out of charge in the middle of the countryside like we are now. Well, maybe you need a Hyundai IONIQ 5 because you have something called V2L, vehicle to load, which lets you charge your Tesla from the IONIQ 5. And I'm going to show you how that works now. So we've got the Tesla charger here. And this is the vehicle to load adapter. And we plug this in here like that. This has got a nice waterproof cover on it as well. Turn on the vehicle to load. And then if I press a button on here, the Tesla charging will open. And now the Tesla Model 3 is being charged by the Hyundai IONIQ 5. And you can charge any electric vehicle with this, with a 3-pin plug. You can also charge up to 3.5 kilowatts if you have a European adapter for that. And what's cool about this is you can also power other things like a coffee machine or a lawnmower, whatever you can plug in, you can do with this. You could plug in a caravan and power that as well. That's pretty cool. This electric car has a load of firsts, which other electric cars don't have. It's a next level game changer. I borrowed this car from Brooklyn Hyundai Seaford. If you're after Hyundai IONIQ 5 or any other car, please give them a visit. Let's talk about trim levels. There are 3 trim levels: the SE Connect Premium, which is what this car is, and the Ultimate. There are 2 different battery sizes, 58 kilowatts and 73 kilowatt hours, which is what this car is, 73 kilowatt hours, which gives it a range of around 300 miles. This car is built on the new 800 volt architecture, which means it can charge on a super rapid charger 60-ish miles in about 5 minutes, which is very similar to a traditional petrol car. On standard chargers that you get right now, you can do 10 to 80% of charge in about 20 minutes. So it's able to charge really fast, and it gives you, as I mentioned, around 300 miles of range at the top end. There are also 2 different motor options: rear motor only, which gives you a rear wheel drive car, which is like this car, and then there's an all-wheel drive car. The all-wheel drive car has 300 horsepower. The rear wheel drive cars have around 200 horsepower. I'll put the exact numbers up on the screen so you can see it for yourself. Whatever trim level you buy, this car has something to offer. And we're going to talk about what's in this car, the premium edition, and also talk about what would be in the ultimate edition as well, if you had an ultimate edition. But I think we should start now with the design on this car, which is pretty spectacular. Let's talk about the design of the front of this car. So first, we've got a dome bonnet. At the end here, it drops off quite sharply. You can't see that from inside the car, but from outside, it adds to the aggressive look. We've got these beautiful headlights. So these, I believe, are called the Pixel headlights by Hyundai, and they've got a very retro 80s feel, carrying on the same kind of feeling the Honda E gave me, which I really, really loved. And then this bumper at the front here, despite being not all the same material, it looks very, very whole as a design. So what I mean by that is we've got our gravity matte gold here, and then down here we've got it as well. But this area here, which is actually also a light bar and lights up at night, is just a different shade of that. And then down here, this is a different shade, and there's a different shade behind that. So it's basically very, very much coming across as a design at the front here, which is very, very cool. Also down here, these air vents are actually active air vents, which will open and close depending on the speed you're going, to help with the aerodynamics and to help with the range performance of this car. So it's a really, really striking design from the front. This car is deceptively large. Now, how much space is there inside the front of the IONIQ 5? Well, let's check and find out. So you'll see here, this is a very nicely packaged design. This is, again, a really cool design on the hood here. This car, being the rear-wheel drive only model, has 57 litres of space, probably enough some carry-on luggage or you're shopping. The all-wheel drive version has 24 litres of space because there's obviously an extra motor at the front of the car. You can see your various fluids that need to be put in here and your 12-volt battery to start the car up. This is the side profile of the Hyundai IONIQ 5. And again, it's got a lot of really cool stuff going on. I'm right by the door handle here, so let's talk about this. It's got pop-out door handles. They pop out when you get close to the car, and they go in when you move away from it, just like that, or lock it like that. And then, of course, it's keyless entry, so I can open it like that, which is very cool. And then let's talk about the size of this car. So it's hatchback shape, but actually it's 3 meters between the wheels and over 4 from front to back. So this car is more like the size of a Range Rover than a Volkswagen Golf, which means that the looks are very deceptive. It's a bit like the TARDIS. It looks maybe smaller from the outside, but it's bigger on the inside. And then we have the wheels, and 19 inches with Michelin tires on them. On the Ultimate Edition, they're 21 inch, which is even bigger, and they have a really cool design. This is not the fractal design. The fractal design is on the Ultimate Edition, but they still look really cool. They're diamond cut, and they have a really cool look to them. But we should also talk about the design on the side of the car. So I just moved out the way slightly here. You can see this really cool triangular design coming down the side here. And what's really cool with all these different surfaces and all these different angles is as the light hits the paint, whatever paint it is, obviously this is the matte gold, it will show different shades of the color and it will catch your eyes. And of course, down here, this is obviously a different shade as well. And as a design, it's very, very much, like I said, that retro design, but it looks also futuristic and it's really, really cool. I like it a lot. So what about the space at the back of the Hyundai IONIQ 5? So if you've got the premium edition, which this is, we have an electronic tailgate, which obviously is very nice and simple to use. And there's 531 litres of space back here. That's bigger than any of the competitors. That's enough to fit 3 massive large suitcases in, enough to fit 3 full-size golf club sets in. Underneath the floor of the boot, there's also space for your Type 2 charging cables and your tyre repair kit. This car has a plastic covering here, which is great for all weather protection in the back of the car. Maybe you have a dog or something back here. And if you want to cover up what's in the back of the car, we have this little screen that you can pull out and cover it with, which works very, very easily. What about space in the back of the car? Let's have a look and see how much room there is inside. At the back here, we also have these vents. These vents channel the air down. You can't see them from where you are, but they're there, and they bring the air down and they reduce the air pressure. And then we've got this really cool different angle design at the back here. Again, different shades catching the light in different ways, which add to that cohesive, futuristic, yet retro look all over the car. So how much space is there in the back of the Hyundai IONIQ 5? Well, I've got tons of headroom. I mean, like literally like this much. I got tons of knee room. There's probably a foot in front of me, if I'm honest with you. There is a lot of space. Plus these seats are actually adjustable. They can move forward and backwards. And if you move them forwards, you can actually recline them as well. So I can actually recline back in this back chair. And of course, I can also move it like that. That's a bit too straight. But I have a lot of adjustability in this, in the back of a car. How cool is that? Plus there's 2 USB sockets back here so you can charge your phone. And there's these cool air vents on the doors, which are really, really interesting. And when you close the door, you don't feel at all cramped. Let's talk about the really cool charging technology on the Hyundai IONIQ 5. So the first thing is, just like the Porsche Taycan, this car has an electrically operated power door for the charging bay. Really, really cool. Obviously, it has AC and DC, and as I mentioned, it does 220 kilowatts rapid charging. Now, one thing that this car has, which is very unique, although it's also on its brother, the Kia EV6, is something called vehicle to load, V2L. And what that is it lets the car output power to charge other things. There's nothing that you can't plug into this that it can't handle, including charging other electric cars. Remember, this can charge other electric cars. Pretty cool. You've been for a long walk with your doggy and he or she's got really wet in the rain. You've dried them off with a towel, but now what? What are you gonna do? They're still wet. You don't wanna put them in your car. Well, you might have one of these. This is a doggy dryer. It's basically a really powerful hair dryer. With the IONIQ 5, you can plug this in because it's got a 3-pin plug, and you can have enough power to actually operate this. You can't do that on any other cars because it requires more power than the car can output, but the IONIQ 5 can output that. So I'm going to show you now, how do you power this from the inside of the IONIQ 5? We'll take the plug, open the door, unsurprisingly, plug it in to the 3-pin socket. Back here, the light will go green to let you know it's working, and then just turn it on, and then you can dry your doggy. Welcome to the inside of the Hyundai IONIQ 5. The interior of this car is absolutely delightful to be in. There is a ton of space. I can even reach my feet across to the passenger side of the car. Space in this car is not something which you need to worry about if you have passengers or if you're on your own and you want to store stuff. There is a lot of it. In fact, we've got 2 cup holders in front of me here. We've got a cavernous space in the middle here where you can store stuff, plus wireless charging. There's another space here where you can store stuff. There's 5 USBs in this car, 2 in the middle here, 1 up front here, and then 2 in the back there. Plus there's a 12 volt for you plugging in your cigarette charger if you have one and want to use it. In terms of these seats are pretty comfortable. They're very spacious and they're very, very adjustable. In fact, they can go back all the way you can want, and you can recline them and have a nap while you're charging your IONIQ 5. Although, don't worry, because this car has super fast charging, you probably won't have time for a nap. Remember, it can right now charge 80% in 20 minutes, and eventually when the infrastructure is there, it'll be able to charge 60 miles roughly in about 5 minutes. What else is going on inside this car? We've got this really cool steering wheel, which is missing bottom spokes, which is kind of squared off. And instead of having the Hyundai logo, has 3 dots in the middle. I'm not sure what that's about. And then we have these 2 12-inch displays. It has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. We've got this interesting design here where there's like this little flat area in front of the screens. I'm guessing you can rest your hands on it if you need to use a touchscreen while driving. And then we've got some physical buttons down here, which let you adjust things like the cameras and tuning the radio, media, nav, map, turn the volume up and down, your start stop button. And then we have capacitive touch controls for your climate control down here, which look very cool. They are a tiny bit fiddly to touch when driving, but you'll get used to them, I'm sure. Capacitive controls are something which everyone has, including even Ferrari. So it's not a new thing, and I think that's the way everyone is going. And then what about the glove box? Well, this is more like a glove cavern or a glove drawer, I guess, because it slides out and there is so much space in there. It's unbelievable. You can fit probably pretty much anything in there. In fact, you could probably even store your shopping in there. There's so much space in there. It really, really is massive. Now, there are some things which you can get inside this car, which this car being premium doesn't have. Depending on the pack you spec and the trim, you can add stuff like a sliding center console. You can add stuff like having these seats adjust to a fully reclined position with 1 button and saving it. You also can get the surround view camera, 360 camera. I personally would suggest spending that extra money to get that extra tech, because I think this car really, really fun to drive, really, really easy to drive, and you'll see it in the driving video. But it's a large car, and seeing what's around you is really, really handy when parking. So I think that would be a great thing. Plus, you can also get a head-up display, which is very cool, and blind spot assistance, where when you indicate, it will show what's in your blind spot on the screen in front of you. So all these extra tech features, I think, are worth paying the extra for. And somewhere like Brooklyn, Hyundai, and Seaford can give you a really good deal on that. In terms of the side bins for the doors, they're nice and spacious. There's even space actually for drinks in there as well. And then we've got obviously amazing headroom in this car. You don't feel cramped at all in this car. If you want to learn more about the infotainment system, I have an infotainment video coming up, so keep your eyes open for that and watch it if you want to. And now let's go for a drive and see what this car is like, and then come back and give it a Tech in the Car score. Driving the Hyundai IONIQ 5. So what are my impressions? Well, first of all, let's talk about the technology and what this car gives you. I've already mentioned we've got 2 brilliant displays in front of me which give me information about my car, about the road speed, the range. This car has fantastic range, around 300 miles. Some of the entry-level specs are a bit less, but still it's really good range. It will get you really far compared to other cars on the market. And then in addition to that, you've got that super fast charging, 220 kilowatts. IONIQ chargers are 350 kilowatts and included at a discounted rate, I believe, with this car if you buy one of these. So IONIQ are really, really fast, but they're also really expensive if you're not a customer of theirs through a manufacturer. So, you know, that's actually a good add-on that you get. Let's talk about the regen braking on this car. So we've got our 3 modes. We've got Eco, which is designed obviously to save as much battery and range as possible, and it feels much slower to respond. We've got Normal, which is a bit better, and then of course we've got Sport, where immediately you can feel that it's a lot faster. You get the full power of the electric motor in this car. Now the regen braking is really interesting. You've got these paddles, you can adjust them up or down to adjust the strength of the regen braking to make it stronger or weaker. You can also do it in automatic mode, and you can adjust that in the settings. I think that driving actually in regen mode is the best way to do it with the highest regen, because then you can basically do one pedal driving with this car and you don't need to press the brake. I think that when you're pressing the brake and you don't have the regen braking up, this car maybe doesn't feel as easy to brake as it does with the regen braking. Maybe I'm just getting really used to regen braking. I know I wasn't a huge fan of regen braking when I drove my first electric car, but the more I've driven it, the more I've become used to it. So, you know, and it's just much easier knowing that you can drive a car basically with one pedal. I just had to press a brake there, but that's only because the traffic stopped in front of me unexpectedly. We've got auto hold on this too, so it means that I don't have to press my brake down and hold my foot down on the thing when I get to a place where I need to stop. Like now I can just press it once, auto hold will engage, and I'll stay stationary. So, you know, there's lots of very, very easy things about this to drive. The gear shifter, you know, that's kind of Mercedes-esque, having it on the side of the steering column. Also Tesla does it. Obviously it saves all the space in the middle for storage because you don't have a gear shifter there, so that's a good benefit to have. So what's my Tech in the Car score for this Hyundai IONIQ 5? Well, this car gets 5 out of 5 in everything: for connectivity, for parking, for driver assistance, for comfort. In fact, on certain models it will even park itself using the remote control, which is really, really cool. The only place where this car is let down slightly is in value. It can get quite pricey. I don't think it's unreasonable considering all the amazing stuff this car has, but I have to knock it down a bit there, so it gets 3 for pricing. What that means is this is the highest rated car I've reviewed on the channel, 28 out of 30 on the Tech in the Car score. Please visit Brooklyn Hyundai Seaford. They're the ones that lent me this car. They're really great there. They'll show you around the car. Don't forget to watch my video on the infotainment system if you want to know more about how that works. And please give this a like if you found it useful, and subscribe for more on Tech in the Car.